of the people. And this kind of debate is not new. The debate about whether parties should pull together or not pull together. If you go back, whether you're going back to, in fact, let me just put it, from the time we re-entered the chapter of multi-party politics after removing Section 2A, you will recall this debate was there. So it is not a new debate. You remember it started with, there was KANU, there was KADU, and all that. That's after that. But when we came back to the multi-party state, there was KANU, and then there was the huge Ford, you remember it? And then subsequently, you had Ford people, Ford Kenya, Ford Asili. I can't remember the other one, but I think there was also another one. And then again, a process of evolution came. We went into the elections of 97, 93, and then 97, 2002. So this debate is not about to end, in my view. It's a debate that will be there for as long as multi-party politics is with us. I think what we should be looking for is that as we go forward, how do we strengthen political parties? How do we make them more democratic? And how do we make them more viable? That's the conversation that we should be having. So at this stage, I cannot say any more, because as you will recall, for me to be a public officer and hold the office of Prime Cabinet Secretary, I had to relinquish my position as a party leader. But there are other party leaders who can advance this conversation further. Good afternoon.
My name is Bettura from K24 TV. Yesterday we saw you talk in Nakuru. You pointed out about the preparations for the 2027 general election having a possible delay. Are you basically saying that the constitution of the IBC in the ongoing talks agenda should be dropped, owing to the fact that the elimination of the boundaries is just around the corner?
No, I did not say that the discussions on the bipartisan talks should stop. No, what we meant is that there are some pieces of legislation that are running behind schedule, and they need to be expedited. And it would be unfortunate if we delay and then deal with those laws when you have just a few months to go to an election. That is dangerous, that is not wise, and therefore this conversation that is being held is important, that it is expedited, and then Parliament can do the necessary adjustments to the various pieces of legislation in time for everybody to acclimatize with those pieces of legislation. Some of the issues I pointed out were that it is important that these are sorted out because there are challenges. For instance, I pointed out then that there are some cases in court by Kenyans, and they have a right to go to court, challenging the validity of the census that was done last time. Now, we don't know what the judgment will be. But if, for some reason, the court upholds the position that the census do not meet the threshold of validity required, then you can see that becomes a challenge, because the law on matters delimitation is pegged on accurate or clean data that can only be generated from the census. So if that turns out to be a nay, you can imagine what the implications are on the other side. So this is the kind of example I was giving. But I did not say under any circumstances that the conversation on IBC should not continue.
My name is Kevin Choria from New Nation. I have two questions. The first one is, what's your take on the expensive dialogue in terms of, we have seen on the report and the media that about 100 million will be spent by the dialogue committee. And the second one also arriving from the government is about the suggestion from one of the senators that the presidential term limits should be extended from 5 years to 7. What's your take on that? Thank you.
What I can tell you is the following. Only a few months ago, in fact a few weeks ago, Kenyans were putting a lot of pressure that they want dialogue, that they want a conversation. They were saying Maandamano is hurting them, so they want a conversation. Now, this conversation is taking place. And I'm happy that it has gone through a process where it is now validated as a parliamentary process. Okay? Now, if it is a parliamentary process, the entity that appropriates funds is Parliament. It is not anywhere else. It is Parliament. So, Parliament can appropriate the resources based on what they looked at as an evaluation of what could come and build up. So they have put some proposition on the table, and I can tell you that these funds are not immune to the audit of the Auditor General. It's public money. It's not immune to the audit process of the Auditor General. Equally, to appropriate any funds, it must be consistent with the Public Finance Management Bill, or Public Finance Management Act, not bill, act, which is in law, which stipulates how resources can be utilized and for what purpose they can be utilized. So as far as I'm concerned, the appropriation is not a problem. The allocation is not a problem. What we might argue is that we hope and trust that they will do everything in accordance with the law so that there will be no audit queries by the Auditor General. The second thing that I want to point out is that this is a Kenyan process. And I did mention this when I was in Nakuru. It is a Kenyan process. This dialogue is a Kenyan process. We don't want a Kenyan process funded by external resources. It's Kenyans. Kenyans are involved in a dialogue. Let them manage their affairs. If for some reason this dialogue process was funded by country X or by country Y, and we have that famous message that he who pays the piper calls the tune. So the flip side of this argument, my brother, is this. Would Kenyans, or would we want this dialogue that is about Kenyans to be funded by external entities? If you ask me, I'll tell you no. If it is a Kenyan process, let it be funded by Kenyans themselves because it is a Kenyan dialogue.
security.
That I cannot stop people from talking. All right? But there are some things that in a democratic process, sometimes you hear, because you cannot stop people from speaking, but it doesn't mean that you believe in them.